The millionaire's daughter had never spoken a word until the day he caught the black nanny and his child singing a melody that shattered his entire world in seconds. Lucas Blackwood froze in the doorway of the nursery, staring at his 6-year-old daughter singing a song in flawless French, while Monica, the nanny he'd hired out of desperation, accompanied her on the piano. Isabella, diagnosed with selective mutism at the age of 3, had not uttered a single word for more than 2 years, yet here she was standing tall, singing like an angel. "What the hell is going on here?" Lucas barked, his voice slicing through the room. Both of them jumped in shock. Isabella stopped instantly, her blue eyes wide with fear, while Monica scrambled to her feet. "Mr. Blackwood, I can explain." "Then explain." Lucas stormed into the room, his fury so palpable that Isabella bolted behind Monica for protection. "Explain to me how you got her to speak when the top specialists in New York told me she might never talk again." Monica Johnson, 28, understood exactly what that tone meant. In her 2 months with the Blackwood family, she had realized Lucas viewed his daughter as a failed project, a social embarrassment to be hidden from high society events. He had spent obscene amounts of money on high-priced therapists who treated Isabella like a lab specimen, but he had never tried simply talking to her. Sir, Isabella has always been able to speak. She chooses when and to whom. Monica replied calmly, resting a protective hand on the little girl's shoulder. "She chooses," Lucas scoffed. "She's 6 years old and practically mute. The doctors said it's a serious neurological disorder, and suddenly you, a nanny with zero medical training, can cure her in 2 months. The contempt in his voice was unmistakable. To him, Monica was a replaceable hire brought in because she charged less than the professional agencies that had all quit after a few weeks. "I didn't cure her, sir. I listened to her," Monica said quietly, feeling Isabella's small fingers tighten around hers. "Every day Isabella tells me the most incredible stories. She speaks 3 languages and plays 4 different instruments." "Lies," Lucas spat. "My daughter can barely communicate. Her medical file clearly outlines her limitations." And then Isabella did something no one expected. She stepped out from behind. Monica looked her father straight in the eye and spoke clearly, her voice steady and deliberate. "Daddy, I can talk. I just don't talk to people who don't want to listen to me." The silence that followed was suffocating. Lucas went pale as if he'd seen a ghost, while Monica smiled proudly at the little girl's courage. "No, that's impossible," Lucas muttered, stumbling back a step. "The doctors, the tests, the years of therapy," Isabella pressed on, her voice growing stronger. "Monica asks me what I think. You only ask doctors what's wrong with her." The brutal simplicity of her words hit Lucas like a slap. He looked at his daughter, really looked, and for the first time he saw not a broken child, but a bright, self-aware little girl silenced by a world more interested in labeling her than understanding her. But Lucas Blackwood was not the kind of man to admit he was wrong, especially not in front of an employee he considered beneath him. His expression hardened. "Monica, you're fired. I want you out of this house immediately." "No," Isabella cried, clinging to Monica's dress. "She can't go. She's the only one who understands me." Lucas ignored his daughter's desperation. "You've manipulated her somehow. I don't know what trick you've used, but I've had enough." Monica stayed calm, even as she felt Isabella begin to sob silently. There was something in her steady gaze that made Lucas hesitate for just a moment, as though she knew something he didn't. "As you wish, Mr. Blackwood," she said softly. "But before I go, Isabella has something she wants to show you. Something that might make you see your daughter differently. If you're drawn to this story about how prejudice can blind even a father to his own child's potential, keep watching. Because what Monica is about to reveal will not only change this family forever, but also prove that sometimes the greatest treasures are right in front of us." "You have 15 minutes to pack your things and leave," Lucas said, coldly pulling out his phone. "And if you ever try to contact my daughter again, I'll call my lawyer." Monica watched him dial, probably summoning the mansion's private security team. Lucas Blackwood was exactly the kind of man she had learned to recognize after years of working for Manhattan's elite, rich enough to buy anything, except the ability to see his own daughter as a whole human being. "Mr. Blackwood," Monica said steadily, even as Isabella clung to her, "may I at least explain what I've discovered about Isabella in the past 2 months?" "There's nothing to uncover," Lucas cut her off, snapping his phone shut. My daughter's been clearly diagnosed by the best specialist money can buy. You're not a doctor, not a therapist. You're just a nanny who's taught a few tricks to a troubled child. The word just hit like a slap. Monica Johnson had graduated top of her class in child psychology at Columbia University, spoke 4 languages, and held advanced certifications in cognitive development and childhood trauma. But to Lucas, she would always be a black nanny he'd hired at 20% less than a professional agency's rate. Dad, please. Isabella's voice trembled, the first words she had spoken to him in over 2 years. Monica taught me I'm smart. She taught me things the doctors never did. Lucas didn't even look at his daughter. His eyes locked coldly on Monica, the look of a man who was used to treating people as disposable. Isabella, go to your room. The new nanny arrives tomorrow. His tone was the same one you'd use on a disobedient dog. I don't want a new nanny, Isabella cried, clutching tighter to Monica's skirt. I want Monica. She doesn't treat me like I'm broken. And then Lucas did something that shocked even Monica, a woman who'd grown used to the polished cruelty of the elite. He grabbed Isabella roughly, ignoring her screams and pleas, and handed her to Carmen, the housekeeper who had appeared at the door. Carmen, take her upstairs and lock the door. She doesn't come out until I say so. Monica! Isabella's scream echoed down the hallway as she was dragged away. Don't leave me! Please don't leave me! The sound of Isabella's bedroom door locking cracked through the air like a gunshot. Monica stood frozen, trying to process the chilling cruelty of a man willing to inflict fresh trauma on his own child just to preserve his convenient version of the truth. Lucas turned back to her with a smile that never reached his eyes. You have 10 minutes. Leave on your own or I call security. Monica Johnson had grown up in Brooklyn, the daughter of a cleaner and a bus driver. She knew exactly what it felt like to be underestimated, dismissed, and treated as inferior by people who confused wealth with wisdom. But she had also learned something Lucas Blackwood had yet to grasp. The most dangerous people are the ones you completely underestimate. Mr. Blackwood, Monica said evenly. Picking up her bag, may I ask you a simple question? Lucas glanced impatiently at the gold Rolex on his wrist. Make it quick. Do you actually believe your daughter is incapable, or are you just afraid to find out she's smarter than you think? The question hit Lucas like a punch to the gut. He stepped closer, fists tightening. Are you questioning my parenting? I've spent a fortune on specialist therapy treatment. I've done everything for my daughter. Everything. Except listen to her, Monica replied softly. Isabella doesn't need another therapist, sir. She needs a father who believes in her. Lucas laughed bitterly. Parenting advice. From a nanny in her 20s who's never had children. That's rich. Monica unzipped her bag and pulled out a small digital voice recorder. Mr. Blackwood, for the past 2 months, Isabella has told me a lot. About how she feels when doctors discuss her as if she isn't in the room. About how sad she is when you cancel dinner because you're too ashamed to take her out. And about how she pretended to walk unsteadily during an examination because she realized that the weaker she looked, the more attention she got. As Monica spoke, the color drained from Lucas's face. Your daughter is not mute, sir. She's a gifted child who's learned to stay silent because that's the only way to receive affection in a home that treats difference as a disease. Lucas snatched the recorder from her hand. You're not allowed to record in this house. This is a violation of privacy. Isabella gave me permission, Monica said, calmly. She wanted someone finally to hear her voice. And there are more recordings, sir. 2 hours worth of conversations where your daughter demonstrates advanced vocabulary knowledge of classical music and emotional insight that any psychologist would be impressed by. In Lucas's eyes, a distant storm began to form. For the first time, he realized he had underestimated not only his daughter, but the woman standing in front of him. What do you want? He asked, his voice rough. Monica smiled for the first time since he had walked into the room. It wasn't a victorious smile, it was far more dangerous. The smile of someone holding the kind of truth that could dismantle an entire, carefully built world. I want you to stop treating your daughter like a failed project and start seeing her as the extraordinary child she's always been. But more than that, she paused, pulling another recorder from her sleeve. I want you to understand that some of the people you dismiss as just employees happened to know very well how to document inconvenient truths. From the hallway, Isabella's cries still echoed from the locked room, calling for Monica. The sound tore through the tension between the two adults, a reminder that at the heart of this battle of wills was just a 6-year-old girl desperate to be understood. Lucas looked at Monica with an expression that mixed anger and something she recognized as fear. For the first time in his life, he was facing someone who could not be bought, intimidated, or swayed by wealth or status. Someone who possessed something he could never purchase: the truth about him as a father. Every attempt Lucas made to humiliate her only fanned the flames inside Monica, flames forged through years of confronting far harsher prejudice. What he didn't know was that each act of disdain was handing her more ammunition for a war he didn't even realize he was losing. Because sometimes the greatest strength is born at the very moment others believe they've broken you. 3 days after Monica was expelled from the Blackwood estate, Lucas believed he had solved the troublesome nanny problem. He hired a new caregiver through the most exclusive agency in Manhattan, Margaret Foster, 60, British, with a flawless resume and, most importantly, an impeccable record of discretion. Isabella hasn't spoken a word since the new nanny arrived, Carmen reported with concern, finding Lucas in his office. She refuses to leave her room, eats irregularly, and has started making strange noises again when she's upset. Lucas didn't even look up from his financial report. Perfectly normal. She just needs time to adjust to a new routine. Mrs. Foster was a trained professional, not a stopgap improviser. The phone rang, cutting their conversation short. Lucas picked up, impatience in his tone, but his expression shifted entirely when he heard the voice on the other end. Mr. Blackwood, this is David Martinez from Martinez and Associates. I represent Ms. Monica Johnson in a matter that may be mutually beneficial. Lucas motioned for Carmen to leave, then closed the office door. I don't know what you're talking about. That woman was fired for a very good reason. Interesting, the lawyer replied, his voice calm and professional. Because I happen to have a rather thick file here detailing racial discrimination and child neglect. My client kept meticulous notes of her time working in your household. This is extortion, Lucas barked, though the edge of unease in his voice betrayed him. I have the best lawyers in New York. That nanny doesn't stand a chance against me. David Martinez gave a low chuckle. Mr. Blackwood, perhaps you're unaware that Ms. Johnson graduated top of her class in child psychology at Columbia University with a specialty in trauma and cognitive development and is currently pursuing her master's in child rights at NYU. She also runs a child development blog with over 200,000 followers, most of them industry professionals. The silence on the other end was heavy. Lucas felt as though the ground beneath him was giving way. But the most interesting part, the lawyer continued, is the set of recordings she possesses, not only documenting Isabella's exceptional cognitive abilities, but also capturing conversations in which you refer to your daughter in ways you clearly never intended anyone to hear. Lucas's mind flickered back to those moments in his office, speaking on the phone with the doctor, calling Isabella a lost cause or a dead end. He had always assumed he was alone. What do you want? His voice came out hoarse. For now, just a civil conversation. My client bears you no personal grudge, Mr. Blackwood. She genuinely cares about Isabella's well-being, but she will not stand by and watch an extraordinary child be damaged by her own parents' prejudice. Meanwhile, across the city, Monica sat in the small apartment she shared with 2 graduate classmates, carefully reviewing months of notes, audio recordings, and photographs. Every interaction with Isabella had been documented not out of malice, but from the ingrained habits of an academic studying exceptional child development. Dr. Sarah Chun, Monica's mentor and professor of child psychology at Columbia University, listened to the recordings with growing outrage. Monica, this really is an extraordinary case. Isabella doesn't just have advanced intelligence, she's developed intricate coping mechanisms to shield herself from systematic emotional neglect. I know, Monica replied evenly. And her father thinks he's helping her by surrounding her with therapists who treat her like she's cognitively impaired. He's causing psychological harm that can't be undone. Dr. Chun clicked on one recording where Isabella sang an entire opera aria in flawless Italian. If you agree, I'd like to present this case at the Child Development Conference next week. It's the perfect example of how family bias can mask giftedness. Not yet, Monica said, carefully tucking the file back into its folder. First, Lucas Blackwood needs to understand that his daughter isn't a problem to hide, she's a gift he's wasting. Back at the estate, Margaret Foster tried without success to get Isabella to eat her dinner. The girl remained silent, pushing food around her plate with a faraway look in her eyes. Before that nanny came along, this is how she was, Lucas said coldly to the new staff member. This is her normal behavior. Don't be fooled by her little performances. Margaret, a seasoned veteran, watched Isabella with growing concern. In her 40 years of caring for children, she had never seen a little girl with such obvious trauma be treated with such detachment by her own father. Mr. Blackwood, she ventured cautiously. Perhaps she might benefit from a more personalized approach. She's clearly above average in intelligence. Isabella has well-documented limitations confirmed by specialists. Lucas cut her off. Don't plant false hopes. That's exactly what the last nanny did, stuffed her head with impossibilities. That evening, after Lucas retreated to his study, Margaret tried a different approach. She sat down beside Isabella and whispered, "I know you can hear me, sweetheart. You don't have to speak if you don't want to, but I really do want to get to know you better." For the first time in 3 days, Isabella lifted her head. Slowly, she wrote something on a napkin and handed it to Margaret Wilmonica. Come back, the handwriting surprisingly mature for a 6-year-old. Margaret looked at the girl, and for the first time, she didn't see a problem child, but a lonely little girl desperate for connection. I don't know, sweetheart, but I do know you're more special than anyone in this house realizes. Isabella gave a faint, sad smile and wrote another line, Monica knows that. Before Margaret could process the depth of emotion in a 6-year-old, her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. Hello, Margaret. This is Monica Johnson, Isabella's former nanny. I know you're a serious professional and you must have noticed the odd dynamics in this family. If you'd like to talk about what's really going on in this house, please contact me. Isabella needs our help. Margaret glanced at Isabella, now asleep on the couch, still clutching the napkin with her questions about Monica. For the first time in her career, the experienced caregiver wondered if staying in a house like this might harm a child more than help her. Across town, Monica was finishing the final touches on what she now called the Isabella Project, a meticulously compiled file that documented not only the girl's extraordinary natural talent, but also the systematic neglect she had endured. David Martinez had assured her they had a solid legal case. But Monica wanted more than a courtroom victory. She wanted Lucas Blackwood to publicly acknowledge the extraordinary daughter he had ignored for so many years. Because some men only learn their lesson when they lose everything they think they own. And Lucas was about to find out that he had underestimated not just a skilled nanny, but a woman who knew how to turn every act of contempt into fuel for a form of justice that could completely rewrite Isabella's future, proving that sometimes the best revenge is simply exposing the truth people will do anything to hide. 1 week later, Lucas Blackwood woke up to a flood of notifications that made his blood run cold. The first was an email from New York Child Protective Services urgently requesting an in-home welfare assessment for the Blackwood residents. The second was a missed call from his personal attorney. The third was a text message that would change his life forever. Mr. Blackwood press conference today at 3:00 p.m. at Columbia University's Children's Rights Center. Your presence is encouraged. KJ Lucas rushed to the office and immediately called David Martinez. What the hell is going on? Why does social services want to evaluate my home? Mr. Blackwood, his attorney's voice was tense. You need to come to my office immediately. We have a much bigger problem than you realize. An hour later, Lucas sat in a conference room watching a presentation dismantle his self-image as a father piece by piece. Dr. Sarah Chun, one of the most respected child development experts in the country, delivered her findings with surgical precision. These recordings were made over the course of 2 months by a certified specialist with the child's direct consent, Dr. Chun explained, as she played an audio clip of Isabella performing a full Italian opera aria. As you can hear, she not only possesses exceptional vocal ability but demonstrates language mastery at a level that indicates innate giftedness. Lucas's face went pale, but he tried to maintain composure. These recordings were made without my permission. They're illegal. David Martinez shook his head gravely. Actually, they're not. New York law permits educational documentation when there's suspected developmental neglect. And there's more, much more. The next recording was even more shocking. Isabella's voice came through clear and steady, explaining to Monica, "Dad always tells the doctors I don't understand things. He talks about me like I'm not even in the room. Yesterday, he told someone on the phone I'm a non-viable investment and maybe he should send me to a special boarding school." Lucas felt the world collapse around him. He vaguely remembered that call, thinking he was alone in his office. "There's a total of 17 hours of similar material, Doctor," Chun continued relentlessly. "Isabella consistently demonstrates superior intelligence, emotional stability when treated appropriately, and a painfully clear understanding of how her father perceives her. But the worst was yet to come. The screen filled with a series of medical reports from the past 3 years, all signed by Lucas, each one downplaying or distorting Isabella's true abilities. The most disturbing thing Dr. Chun said is the correspondence we found between you, Mr. Blackwood, and Isabella's therapists. In those letters, you explicitly ask them to maintain diagnoses that justify labeling her with social impairment. Those are your exact words." Lucas tried to stand, but David gripped his arm firmly. "Sit down and listen. We're not done." Monica Johnson walked into the room carrying a thick folder. She showed no anger or vindictive triumph, only the quiet determination of someone who had carefully documented an injustice. "Mr. Blackwood," she said calmly, "for 2 months, Isabella told me how she pretended to have greater difficulties than she actually did because she realized that the more limited she seemed, the more attention she got from her father. A 6-year-old child learning to manipulate adults just to get basic affection." Lucas finally exploded. "You manipulated my daughter. You taught her to lie to pretend she's capable of things she's not." Actually, Dr. Chun interjected, "The neurological tests we've conducted over the past few weeks confirm Isabella has never had any cognitive limitations. Her selective mutism is simply a response to systematic emotional neglect." Monica opened the folder, revealing hundreds of drawings, musical compositions, and even short poems Isabella had created over those 2 months. "Isabella doesn't need to be fixed, Mr. Blackwood. She needs to be seen. But the doctors," Lucas stammered. "The doctors were simply meeting your expectations," David Martinez explained coldly. "When a wealthy, influential parent insists over and over that his daughter has limitations, specialists often manage to find evidence that confirms that story, especially when that parent pays generously for a convenient diagnosis." The final blow came when Dr. Chun played the most recent recording made just 3 days earlier of Isabella speaking fluently with Margaret Foster about philosophy and advanced mathematics. "What surprises me the most," Isabella's voice rang through the room, "is that Dad never realized I always knew he was ashamed of me. I only pretended to be less capable because it seemed like the only way he would pay attention to me." Lucas collapsed into his chair. All arrogance drained away. I just wanted to protect her. I wanted her to be normal, to be happy." "You wanted her to fit your version of normal," Monica gently corrected. "And when she didn't, you preferred to believe she was broken, rather than accept that your definition of normal was too narrow." David Martinez placed a document in front of Lucas. "Child Services is reviewing a supervised joint custody plan. Isabella will continue living with you, but with mandatory counseling, not for her, for you. And one more thing," Dr. Chun added, "Isabella will be enrolled in the gifted program at Columbia, where her talents will be nurtured properly. Ms. Johnson will be her official educational mentor." Lucas looked at Monica, a mix of anger and desperation in his eyes. "What do you want from me? I want you to be the father Isabella deserves," Monica replied. "I want you to see her for the extraordinary child she's always been. And I want you to understand that sometimes the people you see as just employees can be the ones who recognize treasures you've overlooked." This press conference today, David announced, will present Isabella's case as a groundbreaking study on how family bias can conceal talent. Ms. Johnson will be recognized as a research associate at Columbia. Only then did Lucas realize the full extent of his failure. Not only had he lost credibility as a father, but the nanny he had once dismissed was about to be celebrated nationwide as the woman who rescued a gifted child from years of intellectual neglect. "Does Isabella know all of this?" His voice cracked. Monica smiled for the first time. It was Isabella who helped plan this. She truly wanted her father to learn how to see her exactly as she is. She once told me, "Monica, Dad isn't bad. He just forgot how to look at me without fear." The forgiveness hidden in a 6-year-old's words cut deeper into Lucas than any legal sentence ever could. He had been defeated not by anger or revenge, but by the wisdom and generosity of his own daughter, a prodigy he had overlooked simply because she didn't fit his idea of normal. As the adults finalized the legal arrangements for this family revolution, one question lingered in the air. Could a father-daughter relationship be rebuilt when the father had just discovered that for years he had been battling nothing more than shadows of his own making, while the real treasure had been right in front of him all along, patiently waiting to be seen? 6 months later, Lucas Blackwood sat in the front row of Columbia University's auditorium, watching his 6-year-old daughter receive the Medal of Honor for outstanding academic achievement. Isabella was now fluent in 5 languages and had composed 3 original musical pieces, shining on stage like a true musical prodigy. "Dad," she whispered as she stepped down, "are you proud of me now?" Lucas pulled her into his arms, tears streaming down his face. "I've always been proud of you, Princess. I just had to learn how to see it." Monica Johnson, now a PhD candidate and nationally recognized expert in child development, sat in the audience beside Dr. Sarah Chun. Her book, Invisible Children: How Bias Kills Potential, had become a bestseller. After the ceremony, Lucas approached Monica. "Monica, I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize," she gently interrupted. "You just need to keep being the father Isabella has always believed you could be." Margaret Foster, now a key ally in the family's transformation, smiled as she watched Isabella running freely in the garden with other gifted children. Monica's true revenge was never to destroy Lucas Blackwood, but to turn him into the father Isabella deserved. She had proven that sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemy, but saving them from themselves. If you believe that every child deserves to be seen for their true potential, not for what others expect of them, share this story. Because when we stop judging by appearances and start truly listening, we discover that the greatest treasures are often hidden behind our own prejudices.